Hello, welcome to my Wooloo cosplay video. No, I'm kidding. Um, I played the Go Battle League on New Year's Day. I had some time to kill, and I played the Great League with a brand new team. I was 3-0 at that time, and started recording as I thought it was a pretty good team. So I'm going to show you that and some of the battles that I recorded as well. This is the team right here. It is Gudra, Golisopod, yes, that is the official pronunciation, and Lantern. It is not an ABB team, even though it does have two water types in the back, and I'm going to explain you exactly what kind of team it is. It actually is a team without a real safe switch. Gudra as a lead is extremely neutral with its very diverse moveset. It's also your prime grass type counter, but doesn't really counter grass types as well, because your moveset is Dragon Breath as the fast attack, it has Aqua Tail and Thunder Punch as coverage attacks, and water and electric are resisted by grass. However, if you have shields up, it's usually quite fine. Gudra excels in a lot of matchups where two shields are in play, or you can set up your backline in a 0 or 1 shield scenario for a farm down. The only common leads that I switch out of are Alone and Sandslash and Dougal. You're very occasional. Wigglytuff as well. That's where I swap into Golisopod. When there's an Ice type lead, there usually is no Dunsparce in the back because that would make the opponent's team crazy weak to Pokemon like Annihilate or Primeape. Now, if it is a Wigglytuff lead and they have an answer for Golisopod in the back as well, that does make it a little bit difficult, but every team has its core breaks. Even though I hardly ever save switch with this team, if I save switch, it will be the Golisopod. And Golisopod has one of the best typings, in my opinion, in the metagame. Because with its water and bug typing coverage, and Shadow Claw's the fast attack, it covers Annihilate. It does really well for Alligator. Does decent. It's not super great, but it does quite well into Diggersby, especially considering Diggersby cannot debuff with Scorching Scent. Well, it can, but it's resisted, so they usually don't throw that. You can win the two-shield scenario into Azumarill if you must. You have play into Drapion, you have decent play into grass types. It is really good as long as it is not on a normal type that has rollouts, such as Dunsparce. The Barrel isn't exactly a favorable matchup. Licky. Those are kind of the matchups that you want to avoid. The last Pokemon on the team is a Pokemon that has been on my radar for a little while, but I never really found the Pokemon to use with it. That is in both Go Battle League and in Show 6, but it's Lantern, the electric type Pokemon with play into ground type Pokemon. For example, it can win the 1 and 2 shield scenario into both Diggersby and Clodsire, regardless of moveset. Well, they usually don't run Mudshot. I haven't checked Mudshot, to be honest. You might lose the 2 there. And you also win the 0 shields. And if you have a really good Lantern, you can also win the 2 shields against Shadow Kanto Marowak. So you cover ground type Pokemon plus flying type Pokemon such as Mandibuzz. It has decent play into Drifblim. I wouldn't say it's the best. You have decent play into common Pokemon like Annihilate and Primeape. And then, of course, you hard check the Azumarill. You've played into Dougal and Toxapex. So it really covers a lot in the meta. Of course, Dunsparce is not a great matchup, but with Surf being buffed, also doesn't make it a terrible matchup. And that's really why I like Lantern. Do keep in mind that it does do a lot of the same things that Superior does, except that you cover Talonflame a little bit better. These are the IVs that I have on my Pokemon. I recommend to have a very good Gudra IV spread, a high defense, high HP, low attack. Because if you have that, with the Thunder Punch buff, the zero shoot scenario is extremely close. But if you don't have that, the Azumarill can throw a player off and bubble you down. If you have a good Gudra, they cannot do that. They have to throw a second charge stack and you can Shadow Claw down with Golisopod. I said that earlier that the Golisopod can win the two-shoot scenario into Azumarill, but if you swap your Golisopod into Azumarill, they just stay in, throw a player off, tank all your resisted energy, and it's just not really an optimal situation. So that's why I like to play out the zero-shoot scenario into Azumarill and then farm it down with the Golisopod. Generally, an Azumarill lead team should not have a Dunsparce in the back because that opponent would absolutely get demolished by the very common superior. The other core breaker for this team is Jumpluff. Now, it kind of depends on their moveset. The one shield scenario is really close into Jumpluff with Acrobatics. The zero shield is very fine into Jumpluff with Aerial Ace. Shadow Jumpluff, you might want to look into playing the two shield scenario, but what you always need to keep in mind is that for one, you need to not have your Lantern on this, and two, you need to take it out with your Golisopod at some point. Aerial Ace doesn't do a lot of damage, so Golisopod is not as threatened by it. Generally, Jumpluff teams are the worst to face because they're paired with the common Dunsparce. Kind of a core that is difficult, but that is kind of how the Go Battle League works, where your cores are counted by other cores and your core counters other cores. So that's how it is. Now, let's go to the battles. In battle number 1, I am presented with a very difficult lead. Gudra into Dragonair. Why is this difficult? Because they have neutral Body Slam. If you run into Artibax, it's even worse actually. Because then you have to shield. A Dragon Claw would knock out, but this doesn't learn Dragon Claw, it learns Body Slam as a neutral attack, meaning that I can get my charge stick off. Thunder Punch would do more, but I wasn't sure if I would get there. I just want to get the chip damage on this to make sure that my Lantern is safe. My opponent actually shields there. Now look at what I'm going to do here. I bring in Lantern because Lantern is bulky and can actually get a good amount of farm down here. Because Body Slam has been nerfed, it doesn't do as much damage, and I can soak the damage here on my Lantern, get 12 HP, but I come out with a lot of energy. I come out with a Surf. Game looks weird there. The next Pokemon that comes in is going to be the Clodsire, and it doesn't really want to take a lot of energy. Now, the other Pokemon that doesn't want to take energy is the Azumarill. This is exactly what the Lantern is for. I think this is still kind of an iffy play by my opponent, but it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to farm up, get a Charge Security tie on the Surf. So my opponent has not been counting. They're actually going to shield this, but what I wanted to do here was to land the Surf and get a Shadow Claw down on the Golisopod. Golisopod is very prone to Stone Edge from Clodsire, so you always have to be careful with your shields here. But if you have an energy advantage, you'll see that the liquidation will do about, I would say, 45%, because 2 won't knock out just yet, but they get really close. You can get the Shadow Claw down. I no shield this. Is a misplay. It's because I did a famous inadequacy action where I forget how many opponents my shields had, which in this case was 0. You can see liquidation does a lot of damage. It has 30% chance to debuff, which will make it even more convenient. As you can see, I believe I need 1 more Shadow Claw to knock out this particular Clodsire, and yes, I do need that. Doesn't matter. The bubble from Azumarill was resisted, and that is why Golisopod is not bad into Azumarill. X-Scissor is more efficient, but Liquidation does more raw damage. So generally, you want to go for Liquidation if you try to get a debuff, or if you only get to 2 charge stacks regardless. But otherwise, you go for X-Scissor. Game number 2 is an excellent showcase of a core breaker. We see here the Jump Bluff. Now, this is a bad lead for me, because they have Fairy Wind as a fast attack, and that's super effective in Goodra. But like I always say, Jump Bluff, incredibly bad Pokemon. Acrobatics would be a little bit scarier because it might bring me low, but it will never be in farm down range before I get to Thunder Punch. I'm gonna go for my first Thunder Punch here. As you can see, the Area Ace doesn't do a lot of damage. So I will be able to get to another Thunder Punch before they farm me down. But Thunder Punch, it really did need this buff that it has now, because otherwise this matchup is even worse. You can see they're still into the red. They come with the Dunsparce, which is a core break at this point. This match looks really bad for me at this point, but maybe there's some play. Rollout does do a lot of damage. I'm gonna bring in the Lantern, and what I want to do now is to bring this Dunsparce low. I'm probably going to have to put up a shield here, which is quite unfortunate. Vuron doesn't do 50% just yet, but with rollouts being buffed in damage, it will actually be almost enough to roll out me down, and I don't really want that. Water Gun is not the best fast attack, but we'll be able to get this really low. I would actually hate it if they shield this. And I don't think there's a reason, because my opponent probably switches out to bait out something like a fighter. And I think I was very wrong. My opponent's very good at counting as well, tries to catch a serve on the jump bluff. I didn't need to throw there just yet, so I didn't. They tried to catch on the jump bluff, and I go Thunderbolt here, which almost knocks out. They cannot get the farm down. They go for 2 attacks, and I predict that they would throw on the 2 attacks there, which might be needed. And now you're going to see something really cool. Another great showcase of the team and the Pokemon that's on there, because I'm going to keep my last shield for the Golisopod, which has super effective Shadow Claw for the Annihilape. The Annihilape already has energy though, so it's not looking that great. It's going to get some Rage Fist, multiple, and it has a guaranteed attack buff, of course, so I can't shield the first one. But the counts are going to add up more. As you can see, my Shadow Claws also add up though. I'm not going to throw any charge stacks. I don't get to 3 charge stacks here. I said maybe I would have actually. I would have. X is double resist here, by the way, so it's generally an attack you don't ever throw. I don't think I'll. Maybe. But then they sneak 2 attacks too. It's a tie though. So I guess in hindsight, my set wasn't 4-1, but it was 4-1. Oh. In the next battle, my Goodra faces off into a Drapion. Fantastic showcase, because Drapion is a very common Pokemon. My opponent swaps into Driftman though, and this is a very deceiving matchup, because I don't like to switch out here per se. Now my backline is quite neutral into the Drapion. Golisopod is considerably a little bit worse, but if I have an energy advantage, it might just be okay. I bait the Aqua Tail there, and Thunder Punch would almost knock out. And they throw the Ice Wind immediately, which I didn't really expect. But at this point, I'm just going to play it out, hopefully get a shield advantage. The Driftman is 1470 CP. Might actually feint to this Thunder Punch right here, even though it is debuffed. It is super effective. Opponent barely hangs on. I don't do a Dragon Breath there because I want to get a farm down on something. I'm going to need it now that I know there's Drapion in the back, and I need a good matchup in the back. Bringing in the Lantern here is a little bit iffy, because if I brought in the Golisopod, they may have brought in Drapion there as well, and I'm kind of expecting either a Grass type or an Azumarill. So if it was a Grass type, the energy on the Golisopod was just straight up better. Go for the Surf here, which does a lot of damage to his Drapion, probably about 50%. Naturally, they will shield that, and they actually throw immediately here. That means that we will base equally fast to our charge stack. This Drapion now is in X-Scissor range, and now in charge stack purity, so it will not be able to get that off. Let's see. Do they try to catch? They don't try to catch, they get the charge stack purity. This X-Scissor neutral. only takes me 5 Shadow Claw to get there. We'll knock them out. In the back is an Azumarill. Exactly what I predicted. Azumarill and Drapion are very common together, and also Drapion and Superior make for a pretty good core. Going for the liquidation. Some debuffs here will be nice. I get one. I don't think it's absolutely mandatory, but we're going to see in the end game because I believe this still gets pretty close. And this is why I don't like Golisopod into Azumarill unless it's absolutely mandatory. It hardly ever is, though. So, going to throw another liquidation here, and I don't get the next debuff. This Azumarill gets quite low. My Golisopod, pretty high defense and HP, will hang on here. The bubble is resisted. I go for the X-Scissor. That is a misplay. Like I just said, liquidation does more raw damage. And I checked it out afterwards. If I went for liquidation there, maybe I didn't need much for to win that battle. Really close regardless. But Golisopod, just a good showcase of that is okay into Azumarill, but just not the match that you really want. Because the 1-0 shield there was nasty. In this next game, we face a Pokemon that scares us. Toxapex. Goodra is probably my best answer here. And even Goodra doesn't do super well. I would like to shield a Sludge Wave in this match. Otherwise, it will maybe be too healthy for my Golisopod. Because even though also the charge attacks are resisted here, just like as against Azumarill, the Toxapex deals neutral damage with the Poison Jabs, making Golisopod extremely terrible for it. The backline usually is quite fine though. They actually bait the Brine, which is the worst play you can probably do with a Toxapex here. With the Thunder Punch buff, this now knocks out in the 0 shield for Toxapex. And they come with Azumarill. But Azumarill cannot farm this down. This also gives me an idea that in the back is something that just cannot farm down my Goodra probably, or doesn't want to see a dragon in general, such as Grass type, Talonflame maybe. They eat the Thunder Punch, as you can see. This Azumarill's almost into the yellow, just barely not, and I have a fantastic answer for it. I fully expect the Diggersby in the back. That is probably the most common Pokemon paired with the Toxapex. In the back is indeed the Diggersby. And as I said, you win the 0 shield. Sorry, you don't win the 0 shield. You win the 1 and the 2 shield scenario. I have an energy advantage though, so maybe I win the zeros as well. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to go into the Golisopod. And the only thing the Golisopod is going to do here is just soak damage. I don't want to get Scorching Sense debuff on my Lantern. If Scorching Sense doesn't do that, I probably would have stayed in. But that annoying attack can do that. Now my opponent has to go for Fire Punches. Diggersby doesn't have a bad matchup here though, because Shadow Claw from the Golisopod is double resisted. The Golisopod actually kind of struggles in this match. Liquidation does do a good chunk. My opponent goes back into Azumarill, but Azumarill has resisted fast attack damage into all my Pokemon. I'm not even bothering throwing my X's here. I mean, if I threw and they didn't, they could go for an Ice Beam even. Then it would sneak another bubble. I didn't want that. And at this point, all I need is to get to farm up to Surfey. I might even be able to Water Gun down this Azumarill all the way. Azumarill. So in the previous meta, I played ABA to Azumarill's two Water Gun Lanterns sometimes with like Azumarill lead Talonflame in the back. That is because with like one bubble advantage or maybe even on even energy, the Azumarill is not that bad into Water Gun Lantern. You usually get to like 2 attacks there and get them pretty low, but as I'm in this position, Lantern's just a little bit too good in the back there into the Azumarill Diggersby core. In this battle, we're going to get a little bit of a unique situation because most Drapion you face are Shadow. And against Shadow Drapion, you should win every single even shield scenario. So in the 0 shield, you usually win the matchup. And I generally don't shield as much there. But again, like I said earlier, this Pokemon is very commonly paired with an Azumarill. So Switch might be nice here. Against non-Shadow Drapion, you lose the 0 shield scenario. Get the 2 charge stacks here. Pretty sure they can knock out with Aqua Tail if they get a crunch debuff on the first one, but they get on the second one, so it doesn't matter anyway. I have switch advantage. Again, I expect Azumarill on the back. They get a farm down on Drifblim. And I should swap out here, but I should do it in the Lantern. Instead, I swap into Golisopod. And that's kind of an iffy play, because they just keep all the energy and swap out. Honestly, though, if I swapped into Lantern, it also would have been iffy, right? Because they just stay in, and then my Golisopod will be aligned to the other anyway. Liquidation coming through. I don't get a debuff there. They're just going to soak up all this damage on Azumarill, a problem we've faced before. But with the clock not being up yet, it's almost up though, because one charge stack is about 10 seconds. So we have 3 charge stacks here and then like fast stacks in between. It's probably like 38 seconds gone right now. And that means their clock's almost up. They can almost bring back in a Drifblim, which has an Icy Wind banked right now. That means they're one of a Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball does about 50% to Lanterns, so I want to keep my shield for that. Opponent makes a grave misplay here. They think that I'm a dummy who's not counting, but I wanted to catch a player off. And they go for Ice Beam instead, because that's 1 bubble less. So I'm just going to try to farm down. I think it's my only player, and maybe catch in the end, but I get the perfect Water Gun down. At this point, the game is kind of over, because they're going to throw the Ice Wind immediately, which actually might not even knock out, but of course, with the amount of HP I've left. Not much I can do. They're going to no-shoot this, which is a great call, but it doesn't matter. Because I'm going to clear the debuff and just get a quick fast stack down here. There are 2 Astonish off a charge stack. Now I just get the water gun down. So good call, didn't matter. In this game, this is probably the best lead possible. Because the opponent will switch out, and I don't even need switch. All I need to make sure is that my Goliath support is only aligned to Talonflame, his shields are down, because Liquidation will almost take it out on one attack. This is inconvenient though. I'm gonna keep all that energy, and because with the Dragon Breath damage, this Drapion is almost in X-Scissor range. Actually in Liquidation range, because it's non-Shadow. X-Scissor does about 50% to Shadow Drapion. Because I get this debuff here, it actually becomes really iffy. I get the Charge Stack Purity here, not on the Crunch, but on Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail would almost, it might even knock out with a debuff. They come back in with the Talonflame, which I really don't mind. I'm gonna go for the Liquidation on perfect timing here, 4 Shadow Claw for 2 rates. And then they have to shield that. They don't actually. They're putting it all on one Pokemon in the back. And as, since the DGen play is to keep shields for a Mud Slapper, they keep it for that. The Talonflame needs 1 more Incinerate for a charge stack. It will not get there into either of my Pokemon. So I can put both. I can put all my shields on whatever this Marowak is going to throw. Again, I win the 0 shield, and at this point, I'm just trying to get this thing low. It is, how I say this, but that's against Shadow Marowak. I'm not actually sure about this Pokemon. I just want to get my second attack off, and then I have an Aqua Tail stored on my Goodra. I just want to make sure that they don't catch. Again, the Talonflame doesn't have an attack. My Goodra is not in Bone Club range from this Marowak here. I'm going to swap it in. Opponent tries to predict that I would throw, and they try to catch. But again, didn't need to. They weren't in the Bone Club either. Okay. The lead that I'm going to get here is a very uncommon one. You don't see a lot of Charge Bug, but the message is clear. Goodra is my best answer. They two Volt Switch and swap into Altaria. Another very uncommon Pokemon. This train did not get the memo that the meta has been updated. Thunder Punch does do a lot, but because Sky Attack is so expensive, we actually get a Charge Stack Purity on the next attack. But that Charge Bug poses a very big threat to my backline. Where do I put the Golisopod? It does not have a good matchup into this Altaria. So, am I going to shield this? No. I think I maybe should have, but considering that Charge Bug already has 2 Volt Switch, I'll get up pace anyway. It does 1 and then takes me out. So, I'm hoping that if I bring in Lantern, that he will bring in the Charger Bug. At this point, I have play. It really comes down to what is in the back of the, oh, he throws the X's. I can take that. This is a pretty old matchup from previous meta, but serve now 45 energy for more damage. The opponent actually shields that. That makes me think there might be an Azumarill in the back. And if it is Azumarill in the back, the game is probably over. I don't want to get Volt Switch down. I maybe have been able to get to a charge stack, but I didn't want to risk it. And then I go for an X's. I pace here, but this X's will barely not knock out. Maybe it was not the best play to throw it here, because their Volt Switch lands anyway, and they get my shield here. But I just want to make sure that this thing is low. Definitely could a little bit different, maybe. They have Azumarill on the back. Now, this is bad, like I said, right? It is bad, like I said. But what you should not forget is that Lantern was one of the premium counters to Azumarill, and it still is really good in that match. I'm gonna go for the X's here because I want to throw before their next attack, before they knock me out. All this chip damage is really nice, and because they shield there, I'm actually able to win this game. A major misplay on my opponent's part. Even, well, because they're like 8 now, and they even bait for no reason. But look, their Charge Bug is almost no HP. They have no catch. Well, they have a catch, but they wasted here. I think they wanted to clear a debuff, but it didn't matter. The Thunderbolt would knock out either way. They cannot bubble me down. Now win this battle. Kind of a major misplay. I think otherwise I had to make a catch to win this battle. They were almost at 2 attacks on their Azumarill versus my Goliath spot, so then I had to make a catch and try to clean up with that. But there you see that you only need so little of a land to just still take out an Azumarill there. So that's the team that I have here for you. I cannot promise though that I will make many more Go Battle League videos because I just haven't been playing it as much. I enjoy Show 6 way more. But I'll be streaming on Twitch occasionally though, so if you want to check out some content there, make sure to follow me there. I also try to go simultaneously live on YouTube if you don't have Twitch. Maybe you can see that as well. I hope you like the video.